We're about to hold our first period of silence at 10 o'clock, but before we do that, I'd just like to welcome you all on behalf of this church, St. Martin in the Fields, and especially like to thank all those who've worked so hard with my fellow priest here, Catherine Headley, to organize this day here at St. Martin's. It's a day we always look forward to, and particularly my own ministry I look forward to, because this church, although it's a place of prayer, can easily become a place of rush and busyness. And so in this build-up for the season of Advent, when all the Christmas services are in the planning stage, for us here at St. Martin's, it's wonderful on this day to, as it were, breathe deeply, to take a big gulp of peace and stillness and quietness. A peace and stillness and quietness that is all too sadly lacking from many of our lives in this modern city and in this modern world where communication seems ever more busy and we seem to be being pulled in so many directions at any one time of the day. It's lovely to have you here to share that peace, to share that silence. In my own life, I can remember the places of stillness and still seek those places of stillness during the day to reconnect with those things which really matter. And I will remember one of the best sermons in my life that I ever heard. Sermons always go on forever, but this sermon was probably one of the shortest. It was a sermon preached by Brother Roger of Taizé, where many people had gathered from all over the world to hear him speak. And he stood up to speak and said, "I have nothing to say. Let us just be silent together, for God and silence speak much louder than I can." Let us today enjoy that stillness, celebrate our unity in that stillness, and search in the deepest places of our own lives for that still part of the turning wheel, the still point, the point that leads us into the heart of God and unites us with one another. Amen. Let us pray. Lord God, our loving Father, as we come before you in this sacred place, a space that has been a place of prayer for hundreds of years, we ask you, Lord, to speak to us in silence. to be with us in stillness, to help us search in the depths of our hearts for a deeper unity, a deeper peace, a deeper sense of belonging to one another and belonging to the world which has been entrusted into our care. Fill this day with your blessing of peace. Amen. And our first time of silence. So thank you and welcome. Welcome if you're from a different church, from a different denomination, from a different faith, from no faith. Welcome everyone who has come to share this silence together. I've been asked if we can remember in our silence and in our prayers today a young baby called Mia Willow Richardson who's having an operation today, and I know her parents will be with us during part of the day, so do keep Mia Willow Richardson in your thoughts this day. Now gives me very, very great pleasure to welcome Father Laurence Freeman. He has been with us before, and it's always a great pleasure to welcome him to St. Martin in the Fields. Father Laurence.
Thank you. Good morning. In the Gospel, it tells us that Jesus, who had a busy life of teaching and healing, would regularly take times of quiet, of solitude, and stillness. And that is what we are doing here, not in the deserts of Judea, but in St. Martin in the Fields in Trafalgar Square. This is what churches, above all, must be for today, I think. So we're going to begin with a period of meditation where we take that solitude, that stillness and silence from the surface into the heart, into the depth. In a sense, we're coming offline. And the first step on the spiritual journey is to turn off your mobile phones. After that, it's plain sailing. That's a very difficult step to take. To come offline today is in a way, the first step into solitude. Let me just give you one little physical preparation for the meditation before we start. How many of you are left-handed? It's about the right proportion, I think. So you have that's your active hand. For the rest of us, the active hand is our right hand. So take your active hand, for most of us the right hand, and put it underneath your left hand, or your contemplative hand, and just see what that feels like for a moment. So you're just lightly resting your contemplative hand on your active hand. And then reverse and put your contemplative hand underneath your active hand. And just to be scientific about this and verify it, go back and put your right hand or your active hand underneath your contemplative hand. Can you feel the difference? It's a different kind of energy, isn't it? And I think when our active hand is supporting the contemplative hand, we're still online. But when we reverse it and put the contemplative supporting the active, which is what we do now in meditation, it's a different, we're offline. And it's in this offline state where we move from the mind to the heart that we enter the true spaciousness and the creativity of the Spirit. So let's take a moment to sit upright so that we can be awake and pray, alert but relaxed. Close your eyes lightly. Put your hands on your lap or on your knees. And if you have your own way of meditation, of course, continue with that. But otherwise, a very simple and universal way is to take a sacred word and to repeat this word in your mind and heart during the time of the meditation. The word we recommend usually in our work is Maranatha, an Aramaic word that means "Come, Lord." Whatever word you choose, we're not thinking about the meaning of it because we're moving from thought to silence. And silence means not only physical silence, we should try to be as quiet as possible. But silence really means a work of pure attention, where we take the attention off our thoughts and allow it to move to that central place, the heart. So close your eyes lightly. Just maybe take a moment to be aware of your breathing as you breathe in and accept the gift of life. And as you breathe out, because the gift has to be let go of. And then gently introduce silently your word, and say your word with love and attention. Let's again gently return our attention to our breathing. And breathe in these words from the Gospel of John. Peace is my parting gift to you, my own peace, such as the world cannot give. Set your troubled hearts at rest and banish your fears. I have spoken these words to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete.
Let me first of all introduce myself. My name is Ian Mason. I'm here, I think, because I'm principal of the School of Economic Science, one of the sponsors of Just This Day. And I'd like to say that it's a great honor and a great privilege to be here. I would like to begin by thanking Reverend Carter for the use of this wonderful space and for his welcome this morning. And by thanking our speakers also for being here. I've been asked to introduce the subject of the day, which is stillness as a living value and meditation as a tool for transformation. And I was pondering how this might be introduced. And by an odd association of ideas, it occurred to me to ask how many people here have ever tried to pole vault. And I'm delighted to see that there is one other person here who has tried to pole vault. And it came to mind because I used to attempt to pole vault when I was a teenager. This may seem unlikely now, but it was the case then. I wasn't particularly good at it, but it's a fascinating exercise. It involves running as fast as you can for about 15 yards with a 15-foot pole grasped in your hands, most of it well in front of you. And what you have to do is to reach maximum speed and plant the end of that pole in a little box that is let into the ground. And at the point at which the end of that pole gets into that box, it has to hit exactly the right spot. And when that happens, everything changes, because your horizontal trajectory and full speed running turns into a vault. And all the energy is transformed into trying to get as far up into the air as you possibly can. And it's not surprising that there aren't that many people here who have tried it, because it's a daunting prospect. And I used to find that it was very helpful just before starting that 15-yard run to let everything go and become completely focused on the exercise that was about to take place. You felt your feet on the ground. You felt the pole and the balance of the pole in your hands. You felt the readiness of the body to move into action. And you let all surrounding distractions fall away and disappear. And when you are ready, you're there ready to start, there is a point when you actually come to rest in yourself. And at that point, you can, as it were, release the body into the exercise. And that, I think, was my first experience of the sheer practicality of coming to stillness, and of a method of coming to stillness. Of course, I didn't articulate it at the time. It was just what happened when one tried that particular exercise. Anyway, time moved on. And a few years later, I found myself working about 100 yards from here in number 60 Trafalgar Square in an office. I think it's very fitting that just this day takes place here in Trafalgar Square. And in the sacred space at the corner of Trafalgar Square. In many respects, the Trafalgar Square is a symbol of our national life, and in a way, you might think a symbol of life itself. Down there somewhere, we have the seat of government, not far from Buckingham Palace. Behind me and down that way, the City of London and legal London. Up over that way, all the shops, all the fun and games of Soho, all the constant movement and coming and going of life. And yet at the heart of it, here is a sacred space, dedicated to worship, dedicated to the love of God, dedicated to all that is best in the human spirit and human possibility. And one feels in a way, and I used to feel even when I first worked in Trafalgar Square, that there was that sort of tranquility and stability about the presence of the church, notwithstanding the traffic and all the surrounding activity of London. Not unlike that space that you go to or can go to when you come still and really become one with yourself, ready to move into action. So it's very attractive to be here. And the other thing about working in Trafalgar Square is that it's only about 150 yards to Suffolk Street, where the School of Economic Science at that time had its headquarters. So it was a convenient walk from work to attend the philosophy courses that brought me to an articulation of this power to come to stillness and the sort of universalization of it through the study of philosophy and the practice of philosophy. What we learned through that was to make use of the ability to come to stillness and the naturalness of doing so. And so it was possible, and continues to be possible and increasingly possible, to come to rest in the midst of all the activity of life. And through the school one also met the power of mantra meditation. I find it difficult to say much about the transforming power of meditation. It's difficult to know how life would have been if meditation had not been introduced at an early stage. It's observable that life moves on, that people mature, that understandings develop and change, and one hopes deepen. There's no doubt in my mind that all this has been assisted very considerably by the technique and practice of meditation. It brings one ever more deeply to that center in oneself, in which one finds a stillness which is not private, not one's own, but universal, and can be found anywhere, almost at any time, and which is in everyone. And perhaps the most important thing about it is to be able to recognize the stillness in everyone and to unite with everyone in that stillness, because it's in that stillness that there is a complete unity of consciousness and humanity, a unity that spreads and extends through all experience and shows itself in the world of activity and manifestation as the interconnectedness of everything. I think, at least for me, that's been the transforming effect of meditation, that one ceases to think of oneself as a private individual and begins to understand oneself as a part of a universal humanity and a universal consciousness which extends beyond humanity to the universe itself. And in that consciousness, one comes to know that something about God. It would be far too much to say one comes to know God, but one comes into the presence of God, into the presence of the deepest spiritual presence of human being. That, I hope, introduces the subject. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Sister Jayanti, who is the first of our speakers this morning. She is the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris, the World Spiritual University. She's been with the Brahma Kumaris for many, many years, including representing them at the United Nations, where they have consultative status. And I know that she's been involved in inspiring and indeed leading and administering the development of the Brahma Kumari movement in something like 100 countries around the world. So we are in the presence really of a very distinguished lady, a person of great experience, and a person who is willing and, I'm delighted to say, here and able to share her experience with us this morning. So can I ask you please to welcome Sister Jayanti to speak to us.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning and a greeting of peace. Om Shanti. It's a privilege to be here in this very sacred space and also to join eminent people, some of whom are here with me and some I'm recognizing in the gathering. Yesterday, I heard something that shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. And they said that as they had been coming, they saw a bus with an advertisement by the side, and it read, www.confused.org. I'd heard about lastminute.org, but yesterday I heard about confused.org. And why I shouldn't be surprised, because there is a lot of confusion. What's going on in the world? Why are things the way they are? It shouldn't be like this. Why does God not intervene? Is there a God? Maybe there isn't. Many, many thoughts, many, many questions, and sometimes a feeling of hopelessness. And so today I thought I wanted to share, firstly, the message of hope. That even though things seem very dark and confusing, yet beyond that, I believe that there is light. Or in fact, let me put it another way. I think when we come within and find that point of stillness within ourselves, we're able to begin to feel the light that there is. And each one of us is a being of light. And if we remember this and stay in that awareness, we share light wherever it is we go. And so in fact, even though things may seem very dark, yet it's also a turning point, a transformative point, in which I believe we're moving towards a world of light. They say that the darkest hour is before the dawn. And I think that that's true. I think we've come to the point where the dawn has broken. Many, many people are now aware of a holistic approach, meditation, stillness, silence, in a way that they weren't aware of 20 years ago or before then. And so I think we've actually created a different wave. And I think every moment that we spend in silence is strengthening that wave and reaching out to others to awaken them, and also to allow the light to shine within them also, so that then we move together towards creating that momentum, so that there's a shift. That critical mass can't be far away when the energy of love and light from all of us is going to move things in the direction of a world of light. The second thing that I wanted to touch upon was that if I want to allow the light within to shine all the time, then one of the things that I have to deal with is the dark shadows that I carry within myself. And maybe one of the biggest shadows is that of sorrow. From childhood we carry all our experiences, and they're recorded there within us in a conscious or not so conscious way. And that sorrow clouds our feelings, our judgment. That sorrow blocks our heart, and that sorrow doesn't allow us to move forward. Whatever that may have been, maybe a personal tragedy, maybe a situation with another human being, maybe things that just happened in my life, whatever it is. But unless I'm willing to deal with the sorrow, and maybe connected with that, the feeling of anger and bitterness also, that light doesn't always shine. And so then the confusion comes in. I'm not sure that a website is going to be able to clear my confusion. But definitely, if I take a little bit of time and explore what's going on inside, and take help from up above, I believe that in that way I can draw the power with which to be able to maybe learn from the sorrow, maybe understand from the sorrow, come to terms with it, and be able to forgive. Whilst I hold on to the sorrow, it's difficult to forgive. But if I'm taking power from above, then that power allows a healing to happen. I believe that the greatest force of healing is that of God's love. But I need to be able to connect with the source of love, to draw that love within myself and allow it to heal me and come to terms with whatever it is, so that then I'm able to let go and allow it to go back to the past where it belongs. If the past keeps interfering in my present, then the future seems very bleak. But if I can deal with the past and stay focused on the present and do what I need to do here and now, then I create the future of my choice. And so meditation is the method to be able to connect with the one above. Firstly, yes, to go deep within and connect with myself and find that point of stillness and peace. But having done that, then the next step of the journey, to connect with the divine. And when I do that, I'm connecting with the source of love, of truth, of light, of might. All that the soul needs is available from that source. But of course, being human, my eyes want to look at other human beings, the soul being here in a physical form. I want to connect with other physical beings, which is absolutely as it should be. Connecting with other human beings is beautiful, but only if I come from a space in which I'm able to give. If I'm empty inside, if I'm needy inside, then I'm seeking to take from others, and that's when maybe sorrow begins to accumulate, because it doesn't always happen. Sometimes another is able to give me, but sometimes they are in need, and so they don't have the capacity to be able to give. And so to be able to recognize that having gone deep within, inwards, then upwards, and then having made that contact and having been able to fill myself, then I can go outwards. Then I can connect with others from the position of being able to serve and give. And in that way, what comes back to me is a multiplication of that pure energy of love and good wishes and blessings. As we approach Christmas, we often think about good wishes and good tidings for all, and peace for all. Sometimes it's easier to send good wishes to people in Africa than it is to give good wishes to my neighbor. But good wishes for all, surely it means absolutely all. And I can only do that when I've been able to take the help of the one above. When I speak of the one above, I'm not thinking of a human form. I'm not thinking of an angelic form, but the divine spirit, the one who is the mother and father of all. Sometimes we think about the father, and that's beautiful. The father figure is a very beautiful image, because the one above is truly the one who gives an inheritance. All that is within that being is offered to each one of us as our inheritance. And so I can understand that the father image is a dominant one, a powerful one. But yet, maybe, at a time of confusion, when I'm looking for just simply non-judgmental love, unconditional love, total acceptance, maybe I can explore the mother image and to think of that divine spirit as the supreme mother, the one who holds out her arms to welcome me into that embrace of love, is maybe something that I can experiment with in my meditation. and through my own experiment, come to my own experiences and conclusions. Yes, my mother, my father, my teacher, the one who can teach me the wisdom that I have been seeking in my life, the wisdom to be able to understand, and the wisdom to be able to let go when I don't understand. My guide, the one who can lead me towards truth and the ultimate destination. But also, let me explore having the divine as my friend. We were told about the first step for meditation by Father Laurence, which was very beautiful. Go offline. Absolutely correct. But just think back, when you are online, when anything happens, what's your first thought? Who are you connecting with, first and foremost? And that's the one you rely on. That's the one you take support from. That's the one you can depend on. And now, let me try it a little bit differently. If I connect with the one above, what does that feel like? Am I able to take the help, the support, the entertainment, the guidance, the pulling of the ears? Maybe somebody needs to tweak me and get me back on track. Maybe somebody needs to cajole me to make me do things that I'm getting a bit lazy about. I'll try and experiment with that one as my friend. And my friend is the one who's always ready, always available. And my friend is the one who'll be there to wipe away my tears, to laugh with me in moments of amusement, and the one who'll entertain me when I'm a little bit sad. So that being is the source of all attributes, which means that I can play, I can have fun, I can take whatever it is that I need at any moment. And then meditation isn't just 10 minutes in the morning or 3 minutes on the hour, but meditation is a way of life. Meditation is a communication with my friend, with my most beloved one, that's ongoing through the day. Do you count how often you remember the one you love? Do you look at your watch and say, okay, now for 10 minutes, I'm going to remember the one I love? And so yes, it begins with a technique, it begins with a process step by step. But then further on, it's truly the union of the heart with the divine. It's a journey of tremendous love and tremendous joy. People don't normally associate silence and joy together. But yes, the greatest joy is the experience of pure love. And silence is the way to be able to come to that experience of pure love. And so, time maybe to let go of the sorrow that I hold on to. And when I allow the healing to happen, then yes, my heart is big enough to forgive. If the healing hasn't taken place, how can I possibly let go? But the Supreme Healer is able to take care of my pain and allow my heart to expand. And then, yes, I can give, I can forgive. And when I can do that, my heart will be filled with good wishes, truly genuine good wishes for absolutely every single being, human beings, but also all other creatures that we occupy this planet with, but also good wishes for all the elements of nature. Nature needs our good wishes at this moment. We've damaged nature a great deal. Just as we've damaged ourselves and other people, so too nature. So nature is in dire need of our good wishes and love. I can become an instrument for peace, an instrument for love, an instrument to bring light into the world. I know that we'll be having our silence in just a few minutes, but I'd like you to think about two things in that silence. Firstly, the inner being of light that each one of us is, and to allow that light to shine. And secondly, that shining light connecting with the eternal light of the divine, and receiving all that the source wants to give to us so that we can share it with the world. Thank you. Om Shanti.
So we have a few minutes now in which to reflect on what we've heard, to remember the invitation that we've just been given, to remember the light in ourselves, find that inner light in ourselves, and let it connect with the divine. And I think perhaps the best way we can spend perhaps a little more than the next 3 minutes is to just reflect on that. Enjoy the silence, find the joy in the silence, and appreciate the light. So let us just be still. The 3-minute silence starts now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and delight now to introduce Emily Johnston, who is our next speaker. As you'll see from the programme, she's a health and well-being practitioner, working mostly in schools and passionate about her work. I've had the privilege of knowing Emily for quite a long time. She also looks after meditation for children in schools and is an enthusiastic meditator. She has promised to speak for 20 minutes and 4 seconds. Subject, she said, to the state of her nerves. But in the stillness and peace and love of this place at this time, that shouldn't be a problem. Emily.
Good morning, and how lovely to see so many of you here at this wonderful event. Let me begin by saying how honoured I am to be here and humbled to be in such magnificent company with Sister Jayanti and Father Laurence Freeman, both of whom it is clear have given so much of their lives and time to the development of meditation. This event is thankfully not entirely unusual in today's world. 30 years ago, this sort of event was rare and would have been considered strange by general society. That was the climate in the mid-80s, a time of materialism, consumerism, the beginnings of the personal computer and the mobile phone. Living in London, the stage was set for big financial growth, and the general sense was that money was the key to success in life. And yet, in a small corner of West London, there was a group of schools where meditation and stillness was prioritised, and spiritual growth was key to education. It was there at St. James School, with the help of the School of Meditation, that I and the rest of my class were introduced to meditation at the age of 10. This was the mantra-based meditation that was first introduced to the West through the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the 60s, and later through Sri Shantananda Saraswati. As a practice, it comes from an ancient tradition, and the mantra, a special word in itself, is also imbued with the stillness and reverence of thousands of years. Practicing meditation as a child, I found no great difficulty in repeating the mantra given to me and settled into the routine of 15 minutes twice daily practice at school. This isn't to say that I always practice meditation at these times. Sometimes I would simply sit and mull over the day in my head or think about something else. We were encouraged to sit still and keep our eyes closed so as not to disturb anyone else. And this in itself was difficult. But no one could make us meditate. That was our choice. Sometimes there was meditation and sometimes not. So how does this help? When I was about 12, I remember we were meditating at the end of the day in our classroom. And before we began, the teacher made a particular effort to encourage us to practice. And so I resolved to meditate. And as I practiced, the meditation became deeper and deeper. There came a point where time seemed not to exist. My body was there, but not there. I was aware, but of more than my own existence. There was everything and nothing, an ever-expanding fullness, a never-ending depth, full of peace and bliss. When the session ended, I was brought back into awareness of this body with a knowledge of something far bigger, far more expansive and full of life. Reflecting on that experience, it was like an adventure into a space of possibility, infinite potential and peace. It was magic. So what did experiences like that give me as a child? How did it help? It gave me a perspective on life that nothing else could. It gave me a glimpse into another way of seeing the universe, from the smallest interactions of thoughts to the movement of the stars. It connected me to my core and was a foundation for inner stillness. It brought a reality to the world of spirit and a glimpse of the divine. Now, certainly not every meditation was like this. The busyness of being in a school, the dramas of being a teenager, even the changing of the seasons. These were all distractions that got in the way. But looking back, what was important was that the opportunity was there, that every day there was the possibility to meditate, the opportunity given for stillness. As a child, and later as an adult, I took this access to inner stillness for granted. And it was only really when I began working with adults to help reduce the levels of stress in their lives that I began to see how rare that immediate access to stillness was, but also how much it was needed. As a child, I also took for granted the opportunities for stillness and meditation. Leaving school, there was no longer the imposed discipline of sitting down twice a day for meditation. This discipline is a key factor in the practice, but it was something that took me many years to both understand and put into practice myself. This is, without doubt, key to the transformational effect of meditation. Without regular practice, any transformation that takes place, though useful, is fleeting. It is the regular practice that allows the transformation to take hold in a more sustained way. Other aspects that came more naturally with practice are the capacity to let go and to be non-judgmental. Without these two aspects, we can frequently sink into thought and emotional turbulence. How good or how bad was that meditation? Or I can't meditate, or I have too many thoughts. And it's not just the negative ideas that we have to let go of. A powerful experience in meditation can leave you with a desire to reach it again. But, like looking for Narnia through the wardrobe, looking for that experience again can lead you in the opposite direction, to thoughts, frustration, and irritation. Once I had left school, I also left meditation for a while. But eventually, the memory of the stillness and peace it had brought me as a child drew me back into practice. This time strengthened by my own resolve and learning. I discovered and really began to understand the power of regular practice, letting go and not judging. Once these aspects are in place, there is far greater potential for depth in meditation, and in turn, the possibility for transformation. So, what is it that transforms? In recent years, there's been a lot of interest in meditation and mindfulness. Consequently, hundreds of studies have been done on the effects of these practices. Regular practice has been proven on a physical level to reduce stress, to improve circulation, to boost the immune system, reduce aging, and many other benefits. On a mental level, regular practice helps with depression, anxiety, stress, sleep disorders, attention disorders, chronic pain, and many, many other ailments. It has been introduced as part of pain management and relief of depression in some clinics. And this is good news indeed, when figures show that currently, in parts of England, 1 in every 6 adults is currently on medication for depression. How much better would it be in future if, instead of popping a pill, a regular dose of meditation was prescribed? But seriously, we know the physical and mental benefits can be great, and this is frequently reported in today's press. A quote from the Sunday Times magazine just this week: "In an age of speed, nothing is more invigorating than going slow. In an age of distraction, nothing can feel more luxurious than paying attention. And in an age of constant movement, nothing is more urgent than sitting still. And yet, what is not talked about much as yet is the spiritual growth that can happen and the transformation that can occur when real stillness is deeply felt. This transformation is subtle and, I think, exceptionally hard to describe. It is not just a mental or physical change, but a deeper shift into a more expansive and extraordinary state. This is the magic of meditation and stillness. And not only can it transform the individual, but it can have an effect on the wider world also. Meditation is often likened to diving into a lake. Thoughts are on the surface like waves, always moving, always shifting, sometimes big and sometimes small, but ever moving. As we meditate, we dive below the waves and the movement reduces. The further down we dive, the quieter and stiller it becomes. This process requires us to let go, to really let go, to allow everything that we think makes us individual simply to dissolve for a short while. Our thoughts, our ideas, attachments, and feelings. When we really let go and give ourselves fully to the meditation, we can go beyond the individual and experience that unity, that fullness of being, that bliss, which is and always has been present. Because this unity and bliss that we experience in deep meditation has both a touch of the divine, but also a familiarity, as if we always knew it was there. A little while ago, I was introducing a teacher to mindfulness meditation, and as I practiced with her, the mind and body settled, and there was a sense of great peace and stillness in the room. Afterwards, I asked her how the meditation had felt, and she said, "It's like coming home, really coming home." And in that, she encapsulated the peace and bliss of deep stillness with the familiarity of somehow knowing its presence had always been there. So when we come back to the world, as it were, from a deep experience of stillness in meditation, what is it that has transformed? The stillness and bliss has not changed, and our situation will not have changed. What can change is our individual perspective and our relationship to the world. Our awareness can be heightened, our understanding clearer, and the experience of unity can change our relationship to everything. This change in perspective and understanding can be very useful. As a life coach, I use meditation and stillness as part of my practice. I meditate before giving a coaching session to help let go of my personal agenda and to see the client just as they are in that moment. Then it is really possible to listen and respond from a place of stillness and space rather than from ego. I see clients who suffer from anxiety or depression, and with the help of meditation during a session, they can begin to become more aware of the thoughts and feelings they have and can explore or let go of what is not helping them. It can be a journey of self-discovery, and with it, a letting go of ideas or beliefs that prevent them from being truly themselves. All my work is with a view to helping people to be truly themselves, And as a wife and mother, I hope to create a space for my family where we can be fully ourselves too. Currently, with teenagers in the house, this can mean being present and connecting with them on a physical level with a much-needed hug, or answering those surprising and unnerving questions that come at the most awkward times, and meeting that with as much grace and acceptance as possible, while still providing boundaries. In essence, I feel it means to have compassion and understanding for each other, to see beyond the individual and connect with the spirit beneath. It is this deep connection with others and the world around us where we can see a reflection of that spirit, that essence we connect with in meditation. This is what brings meaning into our lives. This is what brings peace to our core and raises us up above the daily grind and the fickle desires that don't satisfy. Much of my work is in schools, either with staff or students. And at the moment, there is something of a revolution going on with the introduction of meditation or mindful practice in schools. Every year, more schools are providing the opportunity to students and staff, and this is wonderful. Some children can connect quickly with stillness and can reap the benefits physically, mentally, and spiritually. Others can, with practice, and if they are given the opportunity on a regular basis. And then, rather like eating their vegetables, they begin to practice and can eventually learn to enjoy it. There will also always be those children who don't take to it and find it difficult. But even for these children, the opportunity to stop and simply have some time for reflection can be useful. Like anything in a school, there are two aspects that need to be in place. Firstly, it is important to have good role models and good teachers who are enthusiastic about meditation and understand the pitfalls and potential of regular practice. As a child, this was key to my own practice. If the teachers were taking the practice seriously and clearly meditating themselves, then we, as students, were much more ready to put the effort in and meditate. Children are very astute readers of people and see quickly when a teacher is not genuinely practicing. The second aspect is less obvious, but just as important. Like anything new and inspirational, meditation can be wonderful to begin with, but it takes concerted effort to maintain a regular practice over years and requires re-inspiration and enthusiasm. With the interest in meditation and mindfulness spreading through schools and being taken on board by staff and students, there will come a time when the novelty has worn off and there needs to be in place a way of re-inspiring and re-engaging the teachers and students to maintain useful practice that can lead ultimately to self-regulated practice. This will be the challenge going forward, and it will need a lot of thought and care. There are no perfect answers to this, but what seems particularly important is to not only offer meditation for its physical and mental benefits to the individual, but also for spiritual growth and deeper connection to what unites us all. Call it spirit, consciousness, or essence. And when we touch on this, the effect of transformation goes beyond the individual to raise the level of consciousness in society and in the world. For myself, one passage that has inspired my practice over the years, from very early childhood, is this from the Chandogya Upanishad. In this body, in this town of spirit, there is a little house shaped like a lotus. And in that house, there is a little space. One should know what is there. What is there? Why is it so important? There is as much in that little space within the heart as there is in the whole world outside. Heaven, earth, fire, wind, sun, moon, lightning, stars. Whatever is and whatever is not, everything is there. What lies in that space does not decay when the body decays, nor does it fall when the body falls. That space is the home of spirit. So, as a meditator, I aim to use opportunities for stillness to bring me closer to the deep connection found in meditation. The practice of meditation itself I see as an adventure, a journey into the unknown, ultimately to bliss, which has no limits and yet is familiar and feels like the best of home. This is the way to let go of what is not needed and to begin to be what we are. Thank you.
It seems almost superfluous to say anything. But I would like to thank Emily for sharing her experience and deep understanding of meditation. So thank you very much indeed. Next we turn to Father Laurence Freeman, who probably needs no introduction. But he is very well known for his work in Christian meditation. He is the director of the World Community for Christian Meditation, and his influence has spread really across the globe in bringing meditation back into the Christian world. So can we welcome, please, Father Laurence Freeman.
Thank you very much. Well, it makes it very easy for me to speak after such wonderful teachings and sharings as we've just heard, because it reveals the common ground that meditation creates and reveals. I'd like to, and the importance, the urgency of recovering the centrality of this dimension of life in our world globally today. That, of course, begins with us personally. We don't change the world without allowing ourselves to be changed first. So what I'd like to share briefly at this point is a thought about the power of the small. Meditation is a small thing. It transforms our lives if we put in these 2 periods of meditation every day. Many of the meditation groups in our community around the world, I just come back from South America, are small, and yet they are growing and they have a transformative effect in the world around them. The Hiroshima bomb, 1945, which killed instantly 130,000 people, was released from the energy of a piece of matter about 1 millimeter in size. I imagine the penicillin, when Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, it was a very small thing that he discovered under his microscope. And a few days ago, in a small town in Missouri, a small pressure on a trigger not only ended one young life, but led to a national eruption of outrage and confusion. So small things can make a big difference. John Main was once asked, what's the best way of preparing for meditation? And on this occasion, he rather surprised us by saying, small acts of kindness. And you just think, what a big difference it makes when you're on the tube or you're waiting for hours in a line for something and feeling a bit low or a bit frazzled, and somebody gives you a small gesture of kindness, touches your arm or smiles at you, or a small word, and how powerfully that changes our state of mind and feelings immediately. So the small can be very powerful, and that's where we should start, because that's where we all started, very small. And it's also what we should continually return to. If we don't return to this experience of the small, then very quickly we become abstract. It's like hearing astronomers talk about the size of the universe. Just goes beyond our imagination, becomes totally abstract. Billions of light years, what does that mean? Or even when economists speak about the trillions of dollars or pounds which are involved in their calculations. It's beyond our tangible and personal experience. And very quickly, that abstraction leads in politics, in business, even in education, and perhaps especially in religion, to a corruption of language. We begin to speak and to think in these abstract terms, and to argue and to take up hostile positions on things that are very abstract. And so we have this language of corporate speech. When you hear it, you're like, what on earth are you saying? Can you just bring this down to earth, please? Are you talking about buying and selling, or hiring and firing? Or the cold, chilling sort of military euphemisms that we use to describe civilian deaths. So alongside this loss of immediacy, of immediate experience that we come to on a human scale, in human terms, in the small, there is this abstraction of life that leads to a greater and greater disengagement from reality. That's what led to the 2008 financial crisis. Total illusion, samsara, total fantasy. But there's also, as a result of that, a kind of a hectic, frenetic, mindless scaling up of everything. Everything has to be increased. Impatience and greed are symptoms of abstraction and a disembodied imagination or fantasy, unreality. It's the small, the immediate, the present that brings us back to the real, to the now. And it reminds us, as we learn to meditate, that growth cannot be forced. If we try to force it, we try to override the patterns and rhythms of nature. And we can only do that so far, even with our own bodies, or our own lifestyle, or our own sleep patterns, or our own way of balancing or losing the balance in our lives between family and exercise and health, being online and offline. We can only go so far in that direction of trying to override nature. And maybe today we are almost in control of our genetic destiny. Quite amazing the power we are gaining over what it means to be human. Maybe we are also in control of our planet in a way that has never happened before, that the human impact on our environment is the strongest force at work. So the planet is at our mercy, and we're facing the intoxicating reality of being able to control our own genetic makeup. And there is a great possibility for good, actually, in that power, provided we can handle it, as we were clearly not able to handle the enormous amount of power we had in 1945 with the Hiroshima bomb. But if we can't use that power, then we will be dehumanized, and we will lose our own home. And so it's more urgent, necessary than ever, that we evolve in spiritual consciousness. And that's where we place our priorities. And that's why certainly the teaching of meditation in schools, which is a major part of our own community's priorities, must be a top priority in education. Otherwise, education, as it's becoming today, becomes little more than certification, giving children pieces of paper, which become less and less valuable anyway. So we have to evolve in spiritual consciousness, not by inventing anything, but by rediscovering a wisdom and a practical wisdom that has been with us since the dawn of consciousness. I was, a few days ago, with a remarkable group of young teenage children in Argentina who've been introduced to meditation by a remarkable teacher in their school. And as we were sitting around on the floor, talk was in a church, and they were all sitting politely in their pews, and I said, and there were a few cushions around, and I said, where would you like to sit? And before I could get the words out of my mouth, they were sitting on the cushions. So we sat and we meditated for 20 minutes. These were 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And then we talked. I asked them what meditation meant for them, and I asked them why they thought it was important for them and for their contemporaries that they should learn to meditate. And I was really struck by what a few of them said, that they needed to slow down, that their lives were too fast. They were trying to do too many things. It was causing too much anxiety and stress. And then one young girl said, she said, we're being asked to grow up so quickly. She said, we're being told about things that perhaps we shouldn't know about until we discover them at the right time. And I thought, this was coming from them. And it was wisdom, but a wisdom beyond their years. So this is where we are. We have to rediscover meditation, I think, as a way of becoming natural and a way of reaffirming the human in all its depth and wonder. And that the miracles of technology are nothing compared with the wonder of the human mind and heart. As we're approaching the preparation for Christmas, Christian season of Advent, I've been thinking about meditation as a way of becoming incarnate. And I think it's all about becoming real, becoming incarnate. And meditation is the most incarnate practice, most incarnational way of prayer there is. For Christians for whom mental prayer and worship have become the main, if not exclusive, understanding of what prayer means, it's particularly necessary, I think, in a religion that's based on the incarnation, to understand meditation as a way of incarnating ourselves, becoming real, becoming embodied. The language of Christianity. If you think of what is the language of, just a Christmas thought, what is the sacred language of Hinduism? Sanskrit. What's the sacred language of Judaism? Hebrew. What's the sacred language of Islam? Arabic. What's the sacred language of Christianity? Aramaic? I only know 2 words of Aramaic. Latin? Latin was the language of the people who crucified Jesus. What's that? Love? Okay, but that would be true of other religions, maybe, I think. Greek, well, Greek is translation. Everything else is translation. I think the sacred language of Christianity, if we think what carries the meaning, what is the language that carries the word, is the body. That's what Christmas is about. The Word was made flesh. And we, all of us, all religions together, become incarnate as we grow in consciousness. As we enter this experience, and of course this is what we call life, it's the life journey, as we enter this experience, as we enter the real presence, day by day in our meditation, our fantasies, our compulsions, our abstractions dissolve. And a sense of self manifests that is not an image of ourselves, but an experience or a knowledge, a direct knowledge of who we are, that is us. We live in a world and in an economy in which the image of self is all important. We spend billions, trillions probably, on our image of self. But what really matters is knowledge of self, our self-knowledge. There's a great Christian teacher of the 4th century called Diadochus of Photike, and he picked up this idea of, it says in the Bible, that we are created in the image and likeness of God. And he says we are all, every human being, is created in the image of God. That's why every human being merits total respect and dignity and reverence. But this image evolves. as we grow through the stages of human development, and gradually we take on the likeness of God as well. We become like God as the image that we are develops. And then he says he likens this to a portrait painter who starts with a sort of a rough image of the subject and then gradually adds light and texture and shape and color and tone to the portrait until eventually it looks like the person who's sitting there. And then he says a wonderful thing. He says, and then he adds the smile. And it's the smile that brings the person into reality. It makes the portrait real. And I think that is the work of meditation. It is to develop that image of ourselves that every one of us is, every human being on the planet, the image of God, but to develop that into the unique portrait of God that we are, and to find the smile of the Spirit as we do so. In one of the stories in the Gospel, Jesus is asked about paying taxes, and which was quite a controversial issue at the time because they were an occupied country. And he took a coin and he said, whose image do you see on this coin? He said, Caesar. So he said, well, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's. And I think that gives us a way of negotiating a spiritual course through the kind of abstracted and overscaled world that we live in. A world in which the marketplace, the markets, economics, and consumer satisfaction have become the most admired values. We need to give to Caesar, to the world, to economics, what is their due. But the Spirit has a higher call upon us. The Spirit is that dimension of healing and wholeness, of transcendence, and it's in the Spirit that all authentic relationship is grounded. Meditation is a spiritual practice. Whatever our belief system, everybody has some kind of belief system. Even if you believe in nothing, that's what you believe. Meditation is a spiritual practice that develops the supreme human quality of faith. Faith is our capacity, not just for belief. We're not saved by what we believe. Faith is our capacity for transcendence, because it is our capacity for deep, real, embodied, lifelong commitment. It's through faith that our personality becomes integrated, and it's by healing our infidelities that we grow in faith. Faith is therefore our capacity for love. And as another great Christian teacher once said, St. Irenaeus, the beginning is faith, the end is love, and the union of the two is God. One of the desert teachers from the Christian desert tradition is where we take our way of meditation. One of the desert fathers said that faith is a universal human faculty, even in those who do not believe in God. And that explains why meditation has such a potential globally nationally, culturally, and personally in our world. Without this spiritual dimension refreshed in us daily, we descend into abstraction and into huge upscaling beyond reasonable proportions. And therefore we descend into endless complexity and disengagement from reality and personal isolation and a sense of hopeless impotence. But when this refreshing of our spiritual dimension becomes part of our daily life, as it does in meditation, we become embodied. We become the Word made flesh. And we relate to others in the humility of the body and in the friendship of our common path.
Thank you very much indeed, Father Laurence. We have a few minutes now for some questions, if there are any questions. Elizabeth has a microphone. Do you want to move over there?
Thank you very much for all you've shown us about the importance and the blessing of meditation. Could you say something about the grace that is given us to meditate and the gift of meditation?
Would anyone like to? Would you like to?
Meditation is the method, and the grace is the openness of spirit in which I'm able to say to God, yes. And so, in order to be able to receive grace, I just need to have the desire for truth, a desire to be able to come closer to the divine.
How do you see the connection between spiritual development and politics?
Well, I went to a group of politicians at a breakfast at the parliamentary headquarters. And it was worse than speaking to a group of 4-year-olds. I think that the culture of politics is so intensely, so intense, distracted, competitive, and in a way superficial today. So out of touch with, what we would call sustainable values or deep values. I think it's very difficult to see how we can change the culture of politics. There is goodwill there, there are many good personalities there, but the culture itself, I think, has become chronically superficial, competitive, and short-term. So I think what is necessary really is not just to expect leadership from that level, just as in religion. Don't to expect transformation of religion just from the hierarchy or the leaders or the clergy. I think we have to realize today, as we are, I think, through the social media and the knowledge of the way we communicate and how pressure is brought upon our leaders, we need to, I think, develop the spirituality of the young And that means, if we take that seriously, it means that people of our median age have to take that as a priority for ourselves. Because as I think you said, the children are very quick to realize when their elders are speaking authentically or not. I think there are individuals in politics who do, and I think who are aware of this, and who are quite deep thinkers and altruistically motivated, but they quickly become overwhelmed, I think, by the competitiveness, the pressures of their culture. Maybe we need to reach out to them as well.
Hello, can I ask, is meditation something you need to learn, or is it something that you need to remember?
Something you need to learn or something you need to remember. I think there are certain aspects of meditation that one needs to learn. As a small child, you can have easy access to stillness. There's a certain naturalness. But as we grow, we forget that. It's very easy to forget that connection, that understanding of deep stillness. And so often as adults, we need to relearn that, how to reconnect. Maybe connect with our senses first and then connect with a sense of stillness and depth. But really, yes, it's coming back to what we actually are. It's like coming home, it really is. And in that, we know it already. And when we experience that, when we actually connect with that, we know it's always been there, and it is something that we have already. But it's the access to it that we tend to need to learn, I think, especially more as adults.
As Father Laurence spoke about words, now I'm a teacher of Greek and Latin. I was first inspired to learn Greek when I discovered the Gospels were in Greek, and by singing Latin at school. I've also learned some Sanskrit. But it seems with meditation and reflection that words are very important, and often if they are in a language that carries a sense of the sacred. But it also seems that meditation goes beyond words. So I wonder if you could help with that.
One minute. I think there is a relationship between words and silence, which is very beneficial. I think the more we can leave words aside and move into true silence, which is the purity of attention and simplicity of being, then when we return to the world of forms and to the world of language, we pick up these tools, these wonderful tools and playthings that we have with a freshness and a truthfulness and a transparency. As I was saying, I mean, language becomes corrupted when we lose this experience of silence. But if with that experience of silence in place, and then when we use words, we speak the truth.
Well, it's time once again, ladies and gentlemen, to let the words come to rest and just to be silent. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Before I say anything else, can I ask you please to turn to your neighbour, shake hands, and say hello in the spirit of peace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think you'll agree we've enjoyed a rich and wonderful morning. We've had the opportunity to come to rest together, to hear the expressions of appreciation of stillness, silence, meditation, and the capacity of those things to bring us into the presence of the divine, of something greater than all of us, that unites us all. And so it only remains for me to thank all of our speakers for being here and for contributing to all of that. And so once again to all of them, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And the very last thing I would like to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to acknowledge and give thanks to Mrs. Edmonds, who has just been handing out the kisses and the parcels. Thank you. And of course to the Church and its administration for allowing us to be here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I should mention, if you haven't noticed, that Father Lawrence's new book is available, or will be shortly, downstairs, and I believe he'll be signing copies. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hope to see you again sometime.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to say our day continues here at St Martin's. Of course, there's the cafe downstairs for lunch, and we have